So hello, everyone. Welcome to our pre-registration webinar to get you ready for registration on Tuesday and Wednesday. My name is Frank Gartner, and I'm the Associate Director of Academic Advising here in the Office for Undergraduate Education. And I'm joined by two of my favorite coworkers.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lee Ackerman. I am a domestic advisor, our advising team working with students' last names M and T.
And I'm Elisa Obregon. I'm also an OUE academic advisor on the domestic side, serving students with the last names starting with N and S. All right. So we've got lots to go over today, but after PRAs and Emory Essentials, y'all should be pros at this information. We'll just be talking about some things a little bit more in depth.
So to get us started, before we dive into a lot more information, let's just make sure we know when registration is this coming week. I've gotten some questions this past few days of students asking if first years have different registration appointments at different times. You all are registering at the exact same time, so you all have the same registration appointments. So coming up this Tuesday, August 9th, starts at noon Eastern. So for everyone in a different time zone, make sure you realize that it's noon Eastern. It's going to be open for 12 hours until 11:59 Eastern. On Tuesday, August 9th, you are going to be able to enroll in up to 8 credits. So you are capped at 8 that first day. Your second registration appointment this week is Wednesday, August 10th, starting at noon Eastern, again, till midnight Eastern on the 11th. During this day and a half, that is time to enroll in additional credit hours up to 19. So you're capped at 19 that second registration period. So thinking about our first registration period on August 9th, and then the 10th and 11th, really on day one on the 9th, we are prioritizing your first 8 credits, right? So you're capped at 8 credits that first day. What is most important to you for your fall schedule? It's going to vary per student, what is most important. You also want to take a look and see what capacity may look like in classes, or if there's only 1 section of a course over the semester versus 7 in another class, that might fill up quicker if there's less availability to take a certain class. So think about that, what you want to prioritize for those first 8 credits. For days 2 and 3, August 10th and 11th, that's when we might need to be a little more flexible with what we're signing up for, because some students have already signed up for students have signed up for other classes at that point. On day 2 and 3, make sure you are maintaining at least 12 credit hours, because remember, that's when we need to be full-time, at least 12 credit hours. And on day 2 and 3, you are signing up for no more than 19. So Opus will cap you at 19. If you attempt to enroll in something that would put you at 20, for example, you will get an error message. So you're capped at 19. A note specifically for international students. So something that is very important for you is that you do need to be in at least 9 hours in person. Is that correct, Frank? 9
correct.
hours in person. Now you are going to have Health 100 at all students. Health 100 is an online course, but for international students, just be keeping that in mind. You do need to be in at least 9 in-person credit hours.
All right. Now me. All right. So I'm all ready now. All right. So I think the key to successful enrollment is preparation and having many, many options in your shopping cart. I've been telling the students that I've been meeting with in PRAs to have 25 or 30 open sections of classes in your shopping cart at the start of both days. And that might seem like a lot, but remember, there's 1,450 of you that are all going into Opus at the same time to register. Okay. Open mind. Keep an open mind. Anything that looks interesting, put it in your shopping cart. Almost everything is going to help you with a GER requirement at this point if you're coming in as a first-year student. I also highly recommend over here on the right side of the screen is looking at what are the major or minor requirements for your intended majors or minors. You can just do a Google search, say for Emory chemistry major, and see where the starting classes are for that. Chem 150, Chem 150L. Also, if you're interested in pursuing a track like pre-health or pre-BBA, the dual degree program, to watch those track advising webinars that we did earlier in the summer. Those are all linked on the New Student Programs website. If you want to take a look at those again, even if you saw them early on, it might be good to kind of refresh your memory. And as you're looking for all these courses and putting things in your shopping cart, you want to make sure that you're using that Atlanta campus filter so you don't accidentally put Oxford classes in your shopping cart. You can't take them. If you do enroll in them, you're going to have to drop them. We do have a lot of Opus guides to help you. Opus can be a little bit complicated the first time around. So you can see in the upper left here in your Emory Essentials modules, I think module 2 covered a lot of registration information about how to navigate Opus. The Everything Emory reference pages that my colleague Paula, who's on here, and Jill put together for you. There's some other good information there about Opus. Of course, we went over some of this stuff in your pre-registration advising meeting. And the resource that I most highly encourage you to check out are the Opus how-to pages. There's the link right here on this slide. They have step-by-step instructions about how to do all of the enrollment tasks in Opus. Some of them even have videos, so it's really easy to watch. Coming over here to the right side, we do want you to validate the classes that you have in your shopping cart. You can do that now before you enroll to make sure that you're eligible to take all the classes that you have in your shopping cart. If you don't have the prerequisite you need, for example, it'll give you an error message and you can take that out of your shopping cart. You can enroll directly into classes. I would encourage you to use the shopping cart now to be prepared, but you can actually in Opus, if you find an open spot in a class and it's not in your shopping cart, choose to enroll directly in it. And again, I highly encourage you to look over those Opus how-to tutorials before you go into registration on Tuesday so that you're ready. I think registration itself is relatively simple. You're going to log into Opus and click on that planning and enrollment tile, and then select your shopping cart where you're going to see all those sections of classes that you've already put in your shopping cart to be ready. When 12 o'clock strikes on Tuesday and Wednesday, you're going to click 2 or 3 open sections of classes and hit enroll. You're probably going to see a spinning wheel for a little while. That's totally normal. It doesn't mean that Opus has crashed. There's just 1,450 of you all descending upon it at the same time. And then once that happens, once the enrollment process goes through, you can see in your schedule what sections of classes you got. And if you need more, like on the first day, if you didn't get 2 or 3 classes, go back and do the process again and keep repeating it until you get 6, 7, or 8 credit hours on that first day, and then repeat that again on the second day to get up to 19. I strongly encourage you not to use a waitlist right away. Older students might tell you this, don't listen to them. Most people don't understand how to use a waitlist correctly. There are 2 different waitlist functions. The one that I think is more helpful, it has a really long name. It's on the Opus how-to page. It's called Swap into Enrolled Class, Drop if Enrolled. And what this one's going to do is, say if you really want to get into Econ 101 and it's full, you join the waitlist, you can tell it when you join the waitlist, drop me out of Anthropology 101 if I get into Econ 101. Okay, this is very good because it can clear out any time conflicts you have and also make sure that you don't go above that 19 credit hour mark. Either one of those things will block you from being added to a class from the waitlist, okay? So get into all your classes, have your full schedule, and then you could go back and join a couple of waitlists using that function just to make sure that you would be qualified to get into those classes if you actually do rise to the top of the waitlist.
All right, this is me. Many of y'all brought in a number of AP or IB credits. We've got a form for you to use if you would like to swap out or drop those that are currently counting for credit in Opus. It's called the Test Credit Swap Form, and you can use it until you've earned 64 credit hours. Any international exams do require a review by the admission team, so you will want to send those in soon if you haven't already for future use of those credits. And right now, admission is working diligently to get everything in prior to registration on Tuesday. But if you're not sure that your scores, exams, or transcripts arrived, you should plan to check in with admission.processing@emory.edu during the fall semester to make sure that everything was received and processed. So your AP and IB exams come in as 3 credits each. You are restricted to counting 12 credits coming in from AP and or IB, which equates to about 4 courses. In total, you are permitted to bring in 18 credits, including those AP and IB, and any courses that you might have taken at another institution through dual enrollment or during the summer before starting at Emory. You are not limited in courses counting for placement. So if you do reach that maximum number of credits, 18, the rest should appear on your transcripts for 0 credits each. So Opus is going to read those for prerequisites that might come up for higher level courses.
So there are going to be a few situations this week when you wouldn't be able to enroll in a specific class. So we're going to cover those now. The first situation where you wouldn't be able to register for a class potentially is if that class has a prerequisite that you have not met yet. So some courses need a prerequisite, meaning you need a course before you take that specific class. An example of this is econ. So econ here at Emory is a sequence of microeconomics, then macroeconomics. So econ 112 you see here in the left requires econ 101 microeconomics as the prerequisite. So anytime a course has a prerequisite, you will be able to see that on the course atlas. When you're looking at that class, you'll see it in registration restrictions. So this might be something to take a look through your shopping cart on Atlas, take a look at those classes. Also the validate option that Frank was discussing earlier and your Opus cart, you can tell you if you don't have the prerequisite. You may be coming in with AP IB previous credit that would serve as a prerequisite. So we'll keep going with that econ example. You might have AP micro credit that would serve as the prerequisite. If it's
We love internet problems, but Lee will be back shortly.
Do we want to continue on and maybe go back to those slides?
Yeah, I think that she covered this pretty well. Is there anything else, Elisa, that you're thinking? Again, this doesn't pertain to too many first-year students. I think Econ 112 is a good example of it. The validation function, like Lee mentioned, oh, we lost her, will show you. So if you do happen to have a class that you don't have the prerequisite for, the validation function is going to show you that. And so you're going to know that in advance if you use it. So yeah, I think we can move on to the next slide. And hopefully when Lee comes back, then she can jump back into where she was.
Perfect. Right, and I think this was her as well, but during AdDrop Swab, you are able to maybe attend those closed courses, as well as you can send a polite email to faculty to see if they might be able to overload you into a course. But that's totally up to them and the department, and many times that won't be the case. Welcome back, Lee.
hey, thank you for keeping it going.
Of course.
All right. And
So
we'll
we
go
do-
to the next one. Lee, are you still with us?
Hey, I am. I'm just having trouble with my video.
Okay. We do
And-
see you.
Yeah,
You're in here twice, though.
Oh, okay.
which is interesting. Yeah, this is on
There we
the,
go.
you got it? There we go.
That's better. Yeah, I've never been in the Zoom twice. That was weird. Okay, so let's keep going with another situation where you would have an issue registering for a class this week, and that would be a permission number. This may not apply to any of the classes that you're looking at. For a lot of our intro classes, this wouldn't be the case. It might be more so sophomore year and beyond, but just want to make sure you're aware of this, that some classes do require a permission number. So we'll see here an example in the top right of when you see on the course atlas, department consent required. So this means that the professor and or the department needs to give you permission in order to actually enroll. Sometimes that is emailing the professor, sometimes that is filling out a form. It's always going to tell you within the course description what you need to do in order to make that happen. So if a class needs permission number, you do have to reach out to the faculty member first. Again, this is just another situation. You want to check your courses in advance. You can use the validate feature on Opus, or just make sure you're going through your options in your cart as well, and taking note of that.
Right, so back to me. You probably are very familiar with this GER diagram. I think it has appeared in your life multiple times over the last 3 months. But just quickly again, looking at the big box, the 4 blue boxes are the first year requirements that you must complete in the first year. If you look at the lower right here, Health 100 and ECS 101, those 2 courses must be taken in the fall. So you want to make sure by the end of your registration on Thursday, you've got 1 section of both of those in your schedule. The other 2 first year requirements, the first year seminar and first year writing, those can be taken in the fall or spring, and we're going to focus a little bit more on those in the next couple of slides. Now, all of these other GERs are things that you can complete at any point during your 4 years. So there's no race. Some of my students think they have to complete these within the first 2 years. That is not true. I don't even usually recommend taking any continued writing courses until your 2nd year. You could take one in the spring if you do your first year writing in the fall, but there's no rush again. So one thing I want you to do though is look at, if you're bringing in any AP or IB credits, look and see what GER categories those classes might meet. Most of the incoming, I would say, AP and IB course credits are going to have a GER attached to them. Keep in mind which GER categories are incomplete for you. Like if you happen to be bringing in Econ 101 and 112, that's going to complete your HSC, but most of you are not going to complete a category, maybe other than MQR. So this is a great way to look at for backup courses for your shopping cart for Tuesday and Wednesday. What classes can you take to help you complete GERs that are still incomplete? And it's coming as a first year student, you have many of them, okay? So if you're looking for what are some other things I can take, I've already looked at everything I can think of, just look at open GER categories and use the filter in the course atlas to find courses that would fall into those GER categories to help you. All right, now let's move along and go on to the next slide and cover the first year seminars a little bit. These are really fun classes. They're, as you probably heard, they're very small. They're like 14 to 18 students, kind of a deep dive into kind of one small area of the large department topic like economics or psychology. You can only take one of these courses though, because we only have room for each of you to take one. So you couldn't take one in the fall and in the spring. Unfortunately, you can take one in the fall or spring, but not both. And keep in mind as well, if you can't find one and get one in your schedule for the fall, and you still have the spring, there'll be a whole nother set of first year seminar classes that you can sign up for in the spring, and we'll make sure that you get into one if you don't get into one in the fall. And we do recommend having a lot of these in your shopping cart if you want to try to take one in the fall. Because they're so small, they do tend to fill up pretty quickly. From my experience, like probably 10 of them are going to fill up in the first 2 or 3 minutes because 14 seats out of 1,400 is a really, really low number. It's pretty easy for those to fill up quickly. And some of them, the topics are just particularly appealing. Sports and gambling was in many of my student shopping carts again. So I have lots and lots of backups for first year seminars if you want to take one in the fall. Now I'll turn it over to Elisa to talk about first year writing.
Great, thank you. A first year writing course is required of all students and can be taken in either the fall or the spring semesters. Many of you will be bringing in credit from AP, IB, or dual enrollment for either ENGRD 101 or CPLT 101. Both of those courses will satisfy your first year writing. Again, make sure your credits post in Opus within the first semester so that you can use those credits. All right, so most of you will also complete 3 continued writing courses. If you are following a pre-professional track like BBA or nursing, this might be different for you. So be sure to verify what is required on their admission pages or with one of their advisors. These 3 continued writings can be done across our many disciplines, so we recommend choosing one that interests you. Most of the courses can be combined with another general education requirement to satisfy 2 or more GERs with the one course. So when you see with writing or a W in the name or requirement designation, this is going to count for a continued writing GER. If you are coming in with the first year writing credit, we recommend saving your first continued writing for the spring or your sophomore year so that you have time to adjust to Emory's academic rigor before tacking on that writing component.
So one GR that can be confusing is the language requirement. And I think what can be confusing about it is graphically, when we're looking at all the GRs together, we see that humanities, arts, and language, the HAL requirement is tied in with humanities, arts, and performance, the HAP requirement. So something just to clear up is that it is 4 courses total. They do not overlap. But what the language requirement looks like when you are an undergraduate student here in the college and in the business school, it does look a little bit different if you're in the nursing school. So that would just be something to confirm with pre-nursing advising. But here in the college and in the business school, you must take 2 courses within the same language. That is your HAL, your humanities, arts, and language requirement. Now, any additional courses that you take after those 2 that are language courses can count in humanities, arts, and performance. So if you want to keep going with your proficiency, if you're thinking about minoring or majoring in a language, that would be a great example that you take 2 courses within that language. So that example of Spanish 101 and 102, any additional language courses at that 200 level can fulfill your humanities, arts, and performance. So that's how those are connected. Any additional language courses can fulfill humanities, arts, and performance. I feel like most students will just take those 2 courses within the same language, and then they take humanities, arts, and performance. You're looking at a film class and or history class, something else. So they don't have to be language courses. Just to touch on a question that was asked in the Q&A, it depends whether you start a language in your first year. Some students do. A lot of language classes are a fall spring sequence. So the first course for a language like Spanish 101 or 201 is offered in fall. Spanish 102 or 202 is offered in spring. A lot of students, I think, because of that sequence, they may start that later on, and that is okay. Something also just to touch on from a Q&A was about placement exams. So the way that language placement exams work, for the most part, languages here at Emory require a placement exam if you have previous experience in the language. Now, Spanish is a language that does require a placement exam of everyone, regardless of your previous experience. So that's just something to keep in mind. Placement exams are not placing you out of a language. So I want to make that clear. You're not placing out of a language ever, just placing you at the appropriate level for your proficiency. Sometimes a student may be coming in with previous credit in a language, and that is okay. That can count for one of your 2 language courses if you continue on in that language and take one here at Emory. Okay, so something that came up for me a few times during PRAs is when you are in your primary cart or you're looking at a course in Atlas and wanting to add to your primary cart, you know, there's that box that pops up asking you when you click to add to your cart, which cart are you adding? And it asks you about the grade mode. So this came up a few times in PRAs. So this is what we're referring to on this slide of the graded versus SU. SU meaning satisfactory, unsatisfactory. In general, you will be taking pretty much all your classes, especially this year, on a graded basis. So this is a standard letter grade that is going to have a GPA impact. As we see here on the right, so SU courses, satisfactory, unsatisfactory, you cannot use that for GERs, major or minor requirements. So because we're taking mainly GERs, major or minor requirements, you will take everything for a letter grade, so you can just leave that grade mode as graded when you add stuff to your cart. There are some courses like ECS 101, which is a course you will be taking this fall, that is only offered satisfactory, unsatisfactory. So satisfactory, unsatisfactory just means that if you pass the class with an equivalent of a D or higher, you earn a satisfactory S grade. There's no GPA impact. Unsatisfactory, you fail the class, it's a U grade. There's also no GPA impact. Typically, you'll take some courses, I think, especially later on, that you may take up to 20 credits, satisfactory, unsatisfactory. So especially as you are exploring, you are not taking a GER course or a major, minor requirement, just taking some electives. Those are great classes to consider satisfactory, unsatisfactory. Also, when you just kind of need a little bit of the pressure off in a class, it's a good time to change it. You would have the opportunity a few weeks into the semester to change the grading basis. For now, though, please just keep everything graded except for ECS and anything else that automatically defaults to satisfactory, unsatisfactory. If you're thinking about changing later in the semester, that's definitely a conversation to have with your advisor. All right, so a balanced schedule. I talk a lot in my PRAs about what the differences are between high school academics and college. It looks so different. You're not just going with the same schedule of in class 8 to 3 every day. It looks so much different. Showing this slide and talking about a balanced schedule, I don't want this to stress you out for this coming week with our first registration period, because really the goal of these next few days, the 9th through the 11th, is to enroll in classes. And then we'll work on the balance of your schedule, maybe on the 11th as you're editing and tweaking your schedule, but especially during add drop swap, the first 2 weeks of the semester. Frank's going to talk about add drop swap in a bit, but especially as you are building your schedule and working on it, just some things to keep in mind. What days of the weeks are you taking classes and time throughout the day? So are your classes back to back? Do you have them kind of time blocked? Do you want space in between? What works best for you? Are you needing to work around your work schedule, athletics, practice times, any student organizations? Also keeping in mind free time for yourself. And also think about the subjects of your classes. So is everything STEM based, or is there a balance of courses offered across departments and across GERs? Remember credit hours. So overall for your final fall schedule, we're aiming for 15 to 17 credit hours. So within that, what is that balance going to look like? And again, this is something that once you enroll in some classes, you can continue to tweak on the 11th and during add drop swap.
And speaking of add drop swap, look at that lead in. Lee and I rehearsed this many times to get that just right. As Lee said, I really like to remind my advisees that the schedule that you get at the end of the second enrollment period on Wednesday and Thursday may not be ideal. It may not be exactly what you were hoping for. That's okay. This is just our initial volley. We can make changes. Most students make changes to their schedule during add drop swap. And so once you get to campus, starting on Tuesday, August 23rd, that is when add drop swap opens and students can make any changes to their schedule that they want. Okay, and we have 2 weeks this year. We've extended it for the first time. You have a lot of time. And you will see, you can talk to returning students about this as well. Generally, the further we get into add drop swap, the closer we get to the end, that's when the excitement begins, because people start ditching classes they've been hanging on to, trying to make decisions about what they want to keep. And then that's when spaces open up. But it's sort of like a trickle down effect. As one seat opens up here, another one opens up there, another one opens up here. And so things are going to open up, and you will see, over time. And hopefully we can help you to make the changes that you need. And we have lots of support for you during add drop swap as well. And if I move on to the next slide, click. There we go. Lots of drop-in and in-person advising coming up for you. And this actually starts tomorrow. Now, you got an email on Thursday that kind of went over kind of a summary of pre-registration information. That included the link for our virtual reception desk. We call it the VRD. Okay, you want to keep that link handy. That's how you're going to access our advisors online this week if you want to meet and talk with somebody over Zoom. So tomorrow, Monday, August 8th, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Atlanta time, we're going to have advisors available for Zoom conversations. You'll click on that VRD link in that email. It'll take you to a Zoom room where you'll be greeted by a receptionist who then will kind of keep you in order and then assign you to meet with an academic advisor. And as one becomes available, we assign people on a first come, first served basis. So any last minute questions you have tomorrow, we can take care of those. And then during registration on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., we'll have the same function going on. You can click on that VRD link and be able to talk with an academic advisor if you're having any particular questions or concerns during that time. And then you're going to come to campus. We're going to have you here. And during general orientation, as built in as part of the orientation schedule on Monday, the 22nd, from 3:15 to 5 p.m., we're going to have a bunch of advisors over in the Math and Sciences atrium, which is a really cool space. I'll be there 3:15 to 5. That will probably be for questions you have about what kind of changes you might want to make when add drop swap starts the next day, because at that point, you're still not able to make changes to your schedule. But then you'll see going up to the upper right of this screen, add drop swap drop and advising of a little bit of it, an hour and a half of it on Tuesday, August 23rd, again, part of the orientation schedule. This will be in person in Whitehall. I'm going to be doing that as well. And so we'll be meeting with people in person to answer any questions to get you started during add drop swap. And then like once add drop swap and classes really begin, starting on the first day of classes on Wednesday, August 24th, we're going to have 6 hours of drop-in advising for you. So hopefully that will really work with your schedule and you can come and talk with somebody. We'll have both in-person and Zoom options for that. And for the first 6 days of classes, again, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., you can meet with an advisor to talk about your schedule, what's going on, any questions you have, that kind of thing. So we're here for you and we're going to help you to get through this. Next slide. All right, you've got this. Yes, this is my like encouragement slide. I know that you might be nervous going into something for the first time. It's very, I think, pretty normal to be nervous. There's a lot of you might be kind of worried about getting the classes you want. That was a common concern I heard from my advisees during our PRAs. Hopefully, all the material we've given you has helped to make you prepared so you know what you're doing. You can still, follow up with us and ask us questions if you have more questions. But know, again, this first week is just a start. Okay, if it doesn't look exactly like your dream schedule in your head, that's okay. We're going to continue to work on it during add drop swap, but we're going to get through this together. And I speak on behalf of the entire advising team. We'll do whatever we can to answer your questions, to give you support, and help you to get a schedule that you can live with. It may not be, again, the ideal one, but we're going to get you a good workable schedule that will help you get off to a really good start here at Emory. So questions, so we have some time here. We can take some questions here, but you're welcome to email your OUE advisor. Hopefully you can remember who they are and you have their email address from emails you received from them. We also have a general OUE advising email account for general questions. You can see that there on the screen, oue.advising@emory. That goes to a central person who will either answer the question or send it on to your assigned advisor so they can help you. But we know you have a lot of questions and we're here and we'll answer them as quickly as we can.
So there is one question in the Q&A that Frank and Elisa I think would be good to answer. Question about when noon hits on the 9th. How does it work in terms of selecting multiple courses? If you get in or don't get into a course, so would either of you like to kind of talk through what that looks like?
Sure. I, again, have never registered for classes here. This is my understanding. I'm telling people I think that it's best to only register for the number of spaces that you have. Like, for example, if you're going to go for 2 classes on the first day, register for 2 on your first attempt. If you get 1, then register for 1 and continue on doing that. I think if you put in like, hit 7 of them and hit enroll, you might get, the 2 lowest of your 7 options. I think it's best to go in order of the classes in the order in which you want them to increase your chances of getting the ones that you want. But you will need to go back and hit enroll again and again if you're not getting those 2 classes. I think getting 2 classes on the first day, though, I want to make this less scary. It should not take you too long if you are prepared. If you have lots of options in your shopping cart, you should be able to get those first 2 classes. I'm hoping, I've told my students, within maybe 10, maybe 15 minutes at the most. Is that your understanding as well?
I mean, that would be my suggestion as well, in terms of when you're logging in and selecting a course. So all the courses in your Opus shopping cart have a checkbox next to them. So you would be selecting those that would, to me, I think it would make sense to select 8 credits or less. What are those top choice classes for you? You will click enroll and you will be told immediately if you got in, if there was space in the class, or if it closed and filled up. And that's where having those backup options is helpful, because instead of being in a panic of needing to find another class on the fly, you can just come back to your shopping cart, select something else, click enroll again, and it's just a little bit easier to manage. I think it gives you a little bit more control as opposed to worrying about finding those backups. let's see.
We can answer
There
some of
was.
these, like, I think online, since we've got the time here. I think the question about whether to choose a first-year seminar on the first day is one of the more challenging questions because they do fill up quickly. My general thought, and again, what's interesting, you may hear that, Elisa and Lee and I might disagree. We might give you different options, but I think it's best to go for classes for your major or track on the first day because those are things that are kind of essential to your progress. In a first-year seminar, you have so many options. It's not necessarily essential. However, there are some topics that might just be so appealing to you that you're just like, oh my gosh, I have been waiting for this class my whole life. Maybe not, but who knows? And so it could be worthwhile to go for one on the first day because some of them will fill up pretty quickly. But my general thought is to go with classes for your major or your track on the first day and then go for the other classes where there's more options on the second day. But I welcome other thoughts on that. I feel like now we're like a talk show with panels.
I usually say to go for the most popular courses, but also going towards the majors or tracks, usually like the Chem 150 and its lab, or the Bio 141 and its lab, QTM 100. A lot of those intro psych courses and intro philosophy courses tend to be pretty popular. But otherwise, choose the courses that you are most interested in taking, and then we can go from there. We have plenty of time to fill in the rest of your schedule during days 2 and 3, as well as during add drop swap. Ton of time. We got this.
Yeah, I do know the chemistry department will work very closely with first-year students to ensure that you get into a section of Chem 150 and Chem 150 lab, because it really is vital that you get into one of those in your first semester. Again, it may not be your ideal time, so know that, but again, they will find a way to make sure that you get into a section of those 2 classes to get started in your first semester. Immunization compliance. I know they are working hard to get these resolved. I would imagine they're going to work very, very hard on this because they know that Tuesday is the enrollment day. I maybe would continue to follow up with them one more time tomorrow just to check in with them. I have one of my advisees who I know is in this situation as well. And the question above about registering for 1 class at a time or 2 or 3, yes, you can do 2 or 3 classes at one time and then hit enroll. I don't know how to mark a question as. I guess I'll dismiss it since we added it. For a pre-med student, is it better to take chem or bio first? This is a good question. Like my thought on this, and again, I don't think there's a right answer to this question. You need to take 4 semesters of chemistry and only 2 semesters of bio. And so I think that it might be better to start the chem sequence first. Many students do take chemistry and biology together in their first semester. That's also a common combination. It is a lot of work with 2 labs. So I recommend if you're going to do that, you want your other 2 classes to be a little bit less challenging so you have time for those. And you're only going to take 2 other classes, academic classes along with those 2. So you'll only have 4 classes and then health and ECS. But if I were going to pick one or the other, I would probably go with chemistry. That might be a good question to ask.
Unless you're a bio major and then choose biology.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, if you're a biology major, then yes, I should. Hello, thank you. This is why we have a panel. Absolutely. How can we
and I think sort of to that and some of the other questions that are coming in is that we don't need to get things perfectly this week. Like add drop swap is the time, if you don't get something during the 9th through 11th, that you can continue trying to get that course. But it's also where you'll be on campus. You'll be able to talk, maybe go in to talk to pre-health advising. And you'll be here on campus where I think things will click into place more of what works best for your schedule, and you'll be able to make those changes.
I think we just both answered that one at the same time. Okay. For Eli, you can take them together. You can spread them out. It's perfectly fine. I have not found my experience.
Frank, can you clarify what the question is? Because I think only you can see.
Absolutely. Sorry about that. Somebody asked, I think, oh, Lisa answer this question live. If a student asks if they can take the first year seminar and first year writing in the same semester, I think that's fine. I haven't had too many students complain to me about the workload in either of those classes. I think it's nice to balance them out and take one in the fall and one in the spring, but if it turns out you're taking them both in the same semester, I don't think that's going to be burdensome for anybody.
A lot of students are asking about the financial aid disbursement hold. This is purely informational and it will not restrict you from registering for your classes.
Let's see if I can find, I think that this is going to be, this webinar will be posted on the new student programs page. And I'm going to see if I can pull up that link. I don't know if I can share this like in a larger chat. I was looking this up quite a bit yesterday. Let's see here.
And I think while you're looking that up, Frank, there's a question about how AP courses come through. So I think that applies to both AP and IB, that a lot of those scores coming in do have an equivalent MRA course. So that's going to be, you'll be able to tell that through the AP IB equivalency chart. I'm going to put the link and answer that question so everyone has that as well.
Yeah, I just put the link to the page with the webinars in the chat so everyone can see it, and I labeled what that is. All right. Okay, so it looks like the next question is about how will you know if you can't register? And that would be from the holds, that red bar on your main page in Opus. When you log into Opus initially, you'll see there's a red bar that says holds. And if you have a number other than 0 in that red bar, there's a little oval in there, then you want to click on that red bar to find out who has placed the holds in your account. That would be the way that you would know if that number shows 0 in the holds bar, then you know you're good to go for registering for classes. Should we have backup sections for our classes at different times? My recommendation is yes. What I've told my students is if there's a class that you want to take, like to get started on your major or your track, you should put every section of that class that's open in your shopping cart. Be willing to take it at any point. We can try to change that later during add drop swap, but beggars can't be choosers. We want to get you a seat in that class, and it may be at a different time. Imagine this, everybody is going to want to take your class at 11 a.m. That's going to be the section that everyone's going to go for. So you might have to take it at 2 or 9, but that's okay. That's how college goes. And yes, you can use your AP credit to fulfill an S&T course with lab. If you're coming in with chemistry or physics, AP credit, that will satisfy your S&T with lab. If you're coming with biology AP credit, though, you must take the biology 141 lab in order to complete the S&T with lab requirement. Okay, somebody asked a question about paying your full bill prior to Tuesday. Know that the deadline for paying your tuition is August 31st. So you don't need to have everything paid by this Tuesday. All right, AP credits applied automatically. Well, as long as you have sent your AP scores to the Office of Admission, they will process them and post them for you. You shouldn't need to do anything else. We have had people follow up if they're not seeing those credits posted, just to make sure that admissions has received them. Occasionally, the College Board will say they're sent, but admissions says they can't find them. Very, very occasionally, but it's always good to double check if you haven't seen your credits posted within, I would say, like 2 weeks of the scores being sent. This is fun. I feel like y'all are like, challenging our like knowledge and variety. What else? See if you can stump us. We have a lot of experience. Very good question. Actually, somebody emailed me about this morning with QTM 100. There are a few classes, I think that CS 170 is the same way, that have both lecture and lab sections listed underneath the course heading. They're not separate classes, they're both together. And in those cases, you must register for a section of the lab and a section of the lecture together at the same time, because those courses require that you take both simultaneously.
And QTM is an example of a class, I think maybe CS 170, sometimes physics as well, where the lecture and lab are together, where for the most part, I do feel like Course Atlas is really helpful to see everything, add things to your cart. For QTM, physics, maybe CS 170 as well. By searching on Opus, you kind of see how lecture and labs are paired together. They're like little groupings. And so it's a little bit easier to see how they're grouped together on Opus and add it to your cart that way.
All right. Thank you. It looks like Elisa is answering the question about meeting with advisors. We actually just in this PowerPoint went over a little bit earlier that we have drop-in advising tomorrow and Tuesday and Wednesday. So, but tomorrow is probably the day. So you can't find the red hold bar. I'm trying to think of how, I believe that was included in the PRA PowerPoint that was sent out to everybody, right? If you, for the student who asked that question, if you look in that PRA PowerPoint that you received shortly after you attended your PRA, there's a slide in there where the red holds bar is circled to bring your attention to it.
Yep, so it'll be in the tasks tile in your main Opus page. And it'll show you the number of holds that you have, if you have any.
Okay, how fast does English RD normally fill up? I wish that I had a crystal ball. It's very hard to predict how sections of required first-year classes will fill. Some of them fill up very quickly, some of them don't. It really is just a guess. I wish we could give you, I don't know if either of you have anything more to share about that, but I don't have any clue. I wish I did.
I think we can't stress too much of what is most popular, what's going to fill up. I think for those first 8 credits, like your first attempt at rolling and registering for them, what is most important for you for your schedule? What are some things that really matter to you that you want to try to get on your schedule? Another thing to keep in mind is that with registration open until midnight on the 9th, it's going to pause from midnight on the 9th till noon on the 10th. While it is paused, that's a good time to kind of go into your cart, see what may have filled up that first day from other students, and recalibrate things a little bit. Like maybe some things we were considering for the 2nd and 3rd day of registration on the 10th and 11th did fill up, so you need to look at some other options in your cart or add some additional things in. So you'll be able to kind of try it out that way.
Very good suggestion. Okay, classes that are currently displayed as closed be unavailable during registration. That is my understanding. I believe we've opened up every seat that we were holding for first-year students. So if a class is currently closed, it will stay closed during your registration window.
Yes. That doesn't mean it's not an option for add drop swap, which starts August 23rd, as Frank mentioned earlier. So during those first 2 weeks, if a class was previously closed for you during this week of registration, you still have the opportunity to keep your eye on it, see if a seat opens up. So many students, sophomores, juniors, seniors, are making changes to their schedule those first 2 weeks. And so if a student drops that class, a seat opens up, you can snag it. So you can still keep your eye on it if it's a closed class. It just wouldn't be an option for this week if it's currently closed.
Excellent. So the next question on here, yes, magically at 12 noon, the enroll button will magically appear in your shopping cart, but not before then.
Yeah, so currently where you have validate and delete as options in your Opus shopping cart, you're going to have an additional button up there that says enroll.
And as for the OUE advising sessions, so you should have received an email on, I believe it was August 4th, that had a link to our virtual reception desk. And so that should be wherever it talks about our drop-in advising hours.
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can find the VRD link. Drop in the chat for people, and you can save this. This will appear on the OUE website once, I don't know if it's going to be there this week, but it will definitely be there once the fall semester begins.
And I've got it if you can't find it.
Okay, I'm just pulling up the email that went out last week. Looks very nice. Here we go. Copy link address. I have no idea what this is going to look like.
Hopefully just a Zoom link. But a couple of y'all have asked about the difference between the first year writing courses, so CPLT and ENGRD 101. So CPLT is going to be 4 credits versus ENGRD, which is 3. So it is going to be more of a time commitment to take CPLT, which is 4. So remember that an hour in class is going to be 2 to 3 hours outside of class. So 1 credit equals that.
There's also only 3 sections of CPLT 101 versus 22 of ENGRD 101. So more students will take ENGRD 101.
And there's also a ton of different topics in the ENGRD because there are so many different sections, and you should hopefully be able to find one that strikes your interest.
So another question came up kind of similar to first year writing, with the difference of those of whether a class is 3 credits versus 4 credits. So credit hours, and this I think is a newer concept within college, is that every course here in college has a certain number of credit hours applied to it. So credit hours help us to determine how frequently you're going to the actual class and what you can expect the workload to be outside of class. So with ECS 101 and Health 100, we know those 2 first year requirements that all of you will be taking this fall semester. Both of those classes are only 1 credit hour. So you're only meeting for an hour each week, once a week, and the workload's considerably less than a standard class. So that's how we determine credit hours. And from there, it goes up, like our standard credit hour number is 3, and then it goes up from there. There's additional requirements of the class, like a lab, if it's a continued writing class, and so on.
Cool. So for the question, what is the goal for Tuesday? Since you can only register for 8 credit hours, you're going to either get 2, 3, or 4 credit hour classes, or if you're registering for a lab science, you might get a lecture and a lab like chemistry 150 or biology 141, and then 1 additional 3 credit hour class. So it's either going to be 2 or 3. And your goal, I would say, would be to get the classes that are most important to you as the kind of the core of your fall schedule. I hope that makes sense for the person who asked that. Okay, I'll pick up this one. At least my philosophy is registering for sections of ECS 101 and Health 100 after you have your other academic courses scheduled. There's so many sections of those 2 courses that it's easy to build them and put them in your schedule around your other classes, if that makes sense. If you were to register for them on the first day, you might want to get into a class on the second day that conflicts with ECS or Health, and then it's a little bit more complicated to get rid of those classes so you can enroll in the ones you really want on Wednesday. So I just say, just wait until the end and then add those 2 in once you have your 4 or 5 academic classes on Wednesday. Interesting classes. Okay, so you can register for a class if you are bringing in AP credit for that class. Okay, what you're going to want to do, though, I recommend not dropping the AP credit until you have completed the class. So for the student who asked this particular question, if you have AP credit for chemistry 150 and you want to take it, and then in December, once you completed the class, contact admissions to drop the AP credit for Chem 150 because you can't get credit for a class twice. However, the other part of your question is you can't register for the lecture and the lab on 2 separate days. They are co-requisites that must be enrolled together, so you can do them together on day 1 or day 2, but you can't do one part on day 1 and the other part on day 2.
I think they're specifying because they've got that lab credit counting, would they be able to take it, register for it on a separate day?
Well, if you bring an AP credit for chemistry, though, you get credit for the lecture and the lab together. You can't get one or the other. So you couldn't have just the lab or the lecture credit. Biology, yes, but not chemistry. I have to say, though, I defer the 2 of you about the sciences because I have fewer people who are pre-med in my area than you guys do. And Spanish 201, typically a popular class. Spanish at all levels is very popular. It's the most popular language class we have at Emory. So it depends on how many seats are open in the sections that you're looking at. Spanish will probably fill up relatively quickly again because of its popularity.
Yeah, and sometimes the languages will release more seats during add drop swap if it does fill up during your initial registration period. So they do what's called tiered enrollment, and they'll release a couple of seats for each class. So for the seniors, the juniors, sophomores, and then for y'all, and then they'll release any of those remaining seats at the very end during add drop swap.
All these good questions. How do you take the language placement exam? This is easy. Google, whatever the name of your language is, language placement exam, Emory. Like Emory, Spanish placement exam, Emory, French placement exam. It'll take you to the page that contains the information. So super easy. I also love the 999 XFRs too. So we have a very weird course name for what we call elective credit. So your history 999 XFR credit, the history department does not give a specific course credit for your IB score, but they will give you Emory credit, 3 credit hours. Okay, so that history 999 XFR just counts as a generic, non-specific course credit, but it carries 3 hours toward the 126 hours that you need for graduation. The history department may consider that as one of your electives. You can, if you want to major in history, you could talk with the department and see if they would consider that to count as one of your elective classes for your major. Italian. The Italian professors here are delightful. I'll put in a little like plug for them. I love them.
Yeah, so if you haven't studied Italian before and you do want to start to learn it, you don't actually have to take the placement test. Italian is one of the few languages that does not require placement tests if you have no prior experience in the language.
Yeah.
And if you do have experience in Italian and you want to continue learning, the Director of Undergraduate Studies of the language would like to have a meeting with you for a placement rather than a placement test.
Mona Moratore, she is delightful. Okay, for Chem 150, my understanding is you must enroll in them at the same time. So you couldn't like try to enroll in the lab without the lecture or vice versa, because it's going to tell you that you're missing the co-requisite. So you would need to check those two at the same time and hit enroll. But again, I defer to the two of you who probably have more experience with this.
Yeah, I just gave a supplemental answer to the question asked earlier. So when we talked earlier in the presentation about prerequisites, there's also a situation of what's called co-requisites, meaning you have to sign up for classes at the same time. Chem 150 lecture, Chem 150 lab, that's an example of it. Same thing with Bio 141 lecture, Bio 141 lab. They're co-requisites. You have to enroll in them and take them the same time. So you would need to sign up for them in the same day. You couldn't space them out.
Excellent. Another one we knocked out. All right, so I'm glad that we got the 8 credits on Tuesday cleared up. That's good. I like that. Got it. Okay, the goal for Wednesday or Thursday, hopefully Wednesday. My hope is that you're going to knock this out on Wednesday. You're going to want to finish off your schedule, and that will depend on kind of the classes you're taking, whether that means having a total of 4 academic classes or possibly 5 academic classes. When we add in health and ECS, that should bring you then to 16 or 17 credits, which is kind of the sweet spot that we want you to be in. So again, depending on the number of credit hours, if you have a lab science class, it's either going to be 4 classes or 5 classes in total. So you just want to get up to, I'm telling people, up between like 13 and 15 credits with those academic courses. And
So,
yes, oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think just to wrap this up, because we are getting closer to 2, there was a question that came in about the non-equivalent transfer, non-equivalent credit courses that come in through APR-IB for some scores like a history. When it comes through as a non-equivalent, that's correct that it does not fulfill a GER. It's only those classes that have an equivalent course and those equivalent courses fulfill a GER where you get that GER credit. You are still getting the credit hours when something is non-equivalent.
The current question, I think, is one of the harder ones because you got to make a choice. But there's no wrong answer either. How about that, right? Yes, you can. And I think is that, yeah, on the web page that Lee has posted for us, you can see there, I've posted the link to the VRD in the chat. So if you want to meet with an advisor tomorrow between 11 and 1 p.m. Atlanta time, you can use that college.emory.edu/VRD link to get access to the academic advisors.
And also between 10 to 12 on Tuesday. So a couple hours before registration opens on Tuesday, we'll also be there. So just keep that in mind. Awesome.
Transcript page 4 of them have 3 as transfer, and others don't. Ah. I've done a lot of talking. He wants to tackle that one. I can pull up the link for the credit swap if that helps.
Yeah, so I actually posted the link to the credit swap in the chat for
Oh,
y'all.
excellent.
Yeah, but
Right there, there it is.
could you put the question back? I lost it.
Oh, I apologize. I don't know if I can.
Oh, no.
It's okay.
But
I saw it.
Do you remember what it was?
So
Okay.
the student was asking, if you bring in more than 4 course credits for AP, they're going to show up, and like some of them will have 3 credits and some will have 0. And you can choose which of all the scores. Like I have a kid who brought in 12, which is kind of crazy. You can pick which of those 12 you want to count, which 4 of the 12 you want to use for course credit. And admissions is going to kind of pick based on their experience what 4 they think are best for you. But you can change that using the link that Alisa posted in the chat, the admission.emory.edu. You can see it says test credit swap is the end of that link. That form will permit you to say, I want you to take the credit away from this one and use the credit for this one. And you can make those changes anytime during your first 2 years as well. So don't sweat if you are not sure exactly which ones you want to use right now.
Yep, exactly. So if you're bringing in more than 12 credit hours, they're only going to count up to 12 credit hours of the AP or IB scores, even though you can bring in up to 18 credits. Let's say you brought in all of those 12 AP or IB, you could use 6 more credits in maybe a summer course that you took this summer, or a dual enrollment class up to 6 credits to fill out that 18 credits.
All right. So excellent questions that were asked. I think we've got everything. There will still be time this week through drop-ins. You can email your advisor as well to ask additional questions. Again, we're not trying to get this perfect for this week. We are just trying to enroll. So take some of the pressure off, but we hope that this session helped provide some information so you could feel more prepared for this week. Thank you so much for being here, and good luck this week.
Thanks, y'all. See you later.